Hey everyone, this is Rushlock, and today we're looking at the INN article Eve Talk, Doom and Gloom, written by Rasa Greywalker. It's a bit more of like a level-headed view of the current events in Eve and what's going on with the community and meta changes, so let's dive into it. Over this 2021 holiday season, I have spent most of my time away from Eve Online. I find myself with the ever stronger urge to return to the universe of New Eden. Eve is that kind of game. During this short break, I have also continued to follow the news of New Eden as well as peruse the Reddit threads from time to time. It may come as no surprise that often these outlets of information tends towards doom and gloom. These expressions of negativity often appear to stem from frustrated parts of the player base, as opposed to outright haters of the game. I interpret this to mean there are still great love for the game, despite unpopular changes. However, some of these expressions may do more harm than good. Doom and gloom. The gloomy atmosphere in many circles stems from many unpopular changes on the part of CCP to the game. These changes stretch from the Blackout experiment to the recent mining changes. Many among the player base take strong enough issue with these changes to speak as to the failings of CCP. While these players may create an atmosphere that appears negative, they are often the players who still play the game. These are the ones who care and feel abandoned or let down by CCP. Those who do not care so much about the game may have simply left already or plan to do so. As time moves on, perceived missteps by CCP have the potential to push more people into outright leaving the game. Those who remain deserve some credit for standing up for their beliefs regarding the game. Oftentimes, these stances are met with further arguments and insults. Furthermore, there are those who wave away new and returning players from joining the game. These actions have the potential to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. While you may have differing opinions as to CCP and the state of the game, it is not in the best interest of the game to intentionally decrease the player base. Even if CCP made every correct decision imaginable, these actions on the part of the players has the potential to doom Eve. So two interesting parts, to me at least, in this section. The perceived missteps of CCP. I like how they wrote this because it kind of unplugs or steps back from the, look, whether you agree or disagree about changes, or at least the intentions of said changes, they're able to move the narrative forward and the point making forward. And then also up here, they mention, see if I can find it again. Talking about players who still play the game, right? Because the subreddit gets a reputation for being full of people who don't even play the game anymore, and they're just hate posting and things like that. Which there is some truth to, but it doesn't mean that the majority, or it's like the whole exception and rule thing we talk about a lot, right? And I like how they touched on that as well. Next section, titled The Other Way. Not everything is doom and gloom, and it's not purely the player base that controls Eve's future. However, there are some things that potentially can help to extend Eve's lifetime when done by players. For example, when it comes to returning players, one can invite them to return as an alpha initially, instead of warning them to stay away from the game entirely. When a friend asks about starting to play Eve, similarly, you may try inviting them as an alpha for them to make their own conclusions. Similarly, instead of quitting the game entirely, try playing as an alpha for a while. We tell so many new players this, not new players, returning players this in the stream very often. Like, hey, I've been out of Eve for 6 months, 6 years, whatever the case may be. What's the best way to get back into it? And I consistently tell them, you need to start off as an alpha. If you try to get back into your old account, you're just going to get overwhelmed and confused and all that good stuff. What changed? What do I need to catch up on? Load up an alpha, go through the game casually, have fun with it, and then as your awareness grows and you get a better look on how much you're coming back into the game, you'll be able to make a more informed decision when you assess your old account and any old assets that you have sitting on that account. Let's go back to it. You can step up in the face of the negativity that grips many of the Eve-related forums. You don't need to overtly insult that one guy who just doesn't get it. Wait a minute, that sounds like my YouTube comments. Someone's been reading them. A civil argument or discussion can go a long way in stopping the gloomy atmosphere that often crops up in these places. Now, this may seem contradictory to your sensibilities, but it does really hurt to be more does it really hurt to be more positive in your actions and correspondence? As players, we should most assuredly spread our knowledge and understanding of the state of changes in the game. Imagine the impact on someone doing research into the game, and you might see the potential issues regarding new players and retention of players. If we really do care for Eve, we should be also be mindful of our interactions and how they may influence other players and potential players. So what they're kind of touching on here is that the reeing and the screeching and the raging, while probably cathartic and a relief for the ones who do it, may not be fully aware of the impact it has on new and returning players who are looking into the game and trying to either catch up on information or gain just a general awareness of what's going on in the current game state. And when you have people who are overwhelmed with an emotional connection to something, they often aren't able to think objectively and take those factors into consideration, which basically, at least in my opinion, my interpretation of this article is what the author is trying to convey is simply, maybe either go post cathartically and preamble with like, look, I'm just venting, take it with a grain of salt, or, don't, like, hold back on it so you process your emotional reaction to it. And then if you can't look at something more objectively, or you can't be objective about a topic, maybe don't get involved until you can, or maybe you step away until you can take that break, or instead of taking a break, as the author suggests, try loading up an alpha. You're still scratching the itch, but you have your little sticking it to the man and not supporting the product type of interaction with it for a little bit until either the game state changes or your perception of the game state changes. But I thought this was well written. It's not very incendiary, which is going to be very counter to how things work on YouTube and media platforms, right? We're supposed to take outlandish positions and then bait you guys into responding to them and that kind of stuff. Speaking of which, if you have an opinion about this article, post down below in the comments section. Again, I personally find this one refreshing. It's nice to read something that isn't just incendiary for the sake of being incendiary, and I liked finding it. So post your opinions down below, and I'll see you in the next video.